One question someone submitted, they want to know if you've ever been in a long distance relationship and if you have any advice.
Yeah, I think if you enjoy being cheated on, you should definitely try a long distance relationship. You should. It's so fun. Love a long distance relationship. Yeah, I was in a long distance relationship once, and guess where he lived? Las Vegas.
Ooh.
Okay. So there is no telling how many women he railed through while I wasn't in town. But that lasted a year. But the trick was I didn't take it seriously. Like I was young in college. I knew I wasn't going to marry this guy, but we were committed to each other. But I think when you're young and you're dating, the best advice I can give is to like use it as practice. You're not going to marry this person. That's the best way not to get a broken heart. Figure out what you like about that person, knowing you're not going to marry them, so you can take it into the next relationship as you mature and grow. So when you're older, you can get married. So a long distance relationship, especially like when you're in college and you're younger, like it's just supposed to be fun. And if they cheat on you, you're supposed to say, "Oh, I knew that was going to happen."
So accurate. I think that advice is great. That is similar advice I'd give my younger self too, is that you shouldn't take the dating so seriously when you're young because it's devastating. You have all your hormones.
I've never had a broken heart.
Really? Oh, I've
Never.
had so many.
I've never let myself. I've been completely obsessed with guys before. Like I've literally loved guys before, but I just knew that like we're too young to like really marry each other. So why put myself into a position of like really thinking it's going to work out? So when I was younger, I always went into relationships knowing they wouldn't work out, which allowed me to just have the most fun ever.
Amazing.
I had the most fun. And I never had a broken heart because there was nothing to end, because it was never a relationship. It would just kind of like fizzle, or you would move away or grow apart, and that was fine. You just had fun. And I'm on good terms with all of my exes.
Whoa.
Yeah.
So is that something that your mom taught you as
No.
a young, that's just who you came to the world
that you can't, I don't think you can really teach that. I think I was so scared of being disappointed that I naturally didn't put myself into a position that would get me disappointed. That maybe that's like a trauma trigger response of mine, is being disappointed. So I avoided disappointment by just focusing on having fun.
Are you taking that into relationships now as you're like single and dating, or? Yeah, same thing.
Yeah.
So if it ends, it's like it was fun.
I know.
And on to the next.
I think I grew up seeing a marriage that I knew I didn't want, that I knew I never wanted to get married from a very young age. I would be like 4 or 5 being like, I don't want kids and I don't want to get married because I don't want anything that I'm seeing right now. So I think that also allows me to be really lighthearted about dating and having fun. I believe in like committing to someone and like 100% being in a relationship, but I don't think you need to get your government involved with your relationship by getting married. I just don't want kids. I think it just allows me to like approach things more lightheartedly than like needing the white picket fence with the house and the wedding and the kids. Like I just genuinely don't need or want that. So women that do really want that, I can see relationships being really hard because it has to be so perfect and they just so desperately want it, you know?
Yeah, that actually makes a lot of sense. I agree with the marriage part not making a whole lot of sense if you don't want kids, but I think if you have kids, it
can
helps.
get confusing with having parents with different last names like that. Right,
and
of
then
course.
and then obviously like mitigating finances and having someone be accountable.
Of course, yeah.
So kids, I think, is an exception to that, but I agree.
I agree, yeah.
I totally agree. And people fail to realize that marriage actually was always kind of a legal binding agreement, and then religion came in way later. So we often say, oh, it's this religious thing, and it can be, absolutely, but like it did originate as just like a legal ceremony, if you will, or just documentation. So it can be whatever you want it to be. But it was funny when you were talking about relationships being super easy and they're supposed to be fun. And I was like, I used to think that too, but marriage can be, and I think it's the kid element. It makes it really hard.
Which I don't want kids. I've never wanted kids. I'm not having kids. So I've never had to think too deeply about the dynamic a relationship would be with kids. I can imagine parenting styles would probably cause a lot of arguments because that's my flesh and blood that I birthed, but it would also be his flesh and blood, and he has an equal right of how he would want to raise the kid. And I can imagine that just being so tough.
Right. And
that I don't ever want to sign up for.
Yeah. Do you feel you have to justify that ever? Like, do you get shit for not?
I like to preach it because I think women feel they have to have children. And I like for women to know that they don't have to have children. And I like for them to know that they're not alone if they can't have children. I don't want them to feel bad or shame. So I like to be open and lighthearted about it because I think it's okay and it's normal. So
yeah, the way that you do it, it's authentic, right? And I don't think everyone's supposed to have kids, and nor should everyone have kids.
Yeah.
And I think it's a really, like, you have to know that that's the thing you want to do. And then there's some women, like Chelsea Handler, I can't stand. I used to love her. When I was in high school,
I've never liked her, unfortunately. Sorry, Chelsea.
And now I can't stand her. And the way that she approaches the topic.
She grew up with a lot of trauma.
Did she? I don't know her story.
I don't know her story verbatim, but I know that she had a really tough like family growing up. And I think she lost her brother at a young age. Like they were best friends. And so imagine do you have any siblings?
I do. Yeah.
Imagine like being like 10 and like they pass away.
Yeah.
So she has a lot of trauma. I don't think that gives you an excuse to be like a shit person, but so I try to give people grace if I'm not a fan of theirs.
Yeah. I mean, there's always context, but at the end of the day, there's this saying, there's no orphans after 21. So you're responsible for yourself after your adulthood. But yeah, when she talks about being childless by choice, it's like this, it feels like an attack on women that decided to have kids. Like it's a very aggressive demonstration of her lifestyle.
And that's her own problem that she feels she needs to express herself that way. She's probably trying to justify her own choices by being that aggressive about it. And you don't have to shove anything down anyone's throat.
Right. Yeah. It's not a war between haves and have-nots. It's just different lifestyles and different choices. But anytime I see someone that's really aggressive, I'm like, you're not okay with your choices, what I'm seeing.
Or people that are super, super opinionated. It's like, I'm opinionated, but I'm fine with what I think, but I'm also fine with what you think. So if you have a different opinion, that's fine. I'm not going to try to change it. That has nothing to do with me. I just live my life staying in my own lane. Just stay in your own lane. It's so peaceful. It is.
There's this thing in Adlerian psychology, and it's separation of tasks. So it's knowing what is for you and what is for other people. And it's exactly that.
That's my superpower.
It's not getting involved in other people's tasks.
That's my superpower.
Yeah, we'd all be better for it.
Yeah.
I think so.